I'll go. I actually did some mocks for folders, so maybe we should talk, Luke, about folders. I haven't really shared these too much, so we'll just see how it goes. All right, y'all see Figma? All right. Let me zoom in a bit. Sorry, I wasn't really gonna plan on sharing this, but it seems appropriate for discussion. Is looking at adding folder structures. I don't know if we're going to have personal folders yet or not, but probably have some level of shared. And just inserting one, like the access to all the folders in the left nav, not the whole folder structure possibly, to keep it kind of tidy. And then having a list of the folders here. I think we have some questions like, do folders get labels or not, and things like that, but we can work through some of that. And then like a couple other designs for like breadcrumbs, but how we get into the nesting and what we might need to be able to do, like nodding towards some of the actions we'll probably have to get at to like manage the access and move them and trash and all those type of management things. We would have to talk if we want like moving stuff around will be interesting because it'll be nice to have like twisty folders and things like that. They'll like moving stuff gets a little bit interesting. I thought might be nice in the future to think about adding some like context maybe to folders. So like maybe allowing you to like highlight certain items in a folder to like push them up to the top so that they could maybe be like, oh, like these are the important things in the folder I want to push up to show you if you're navigating through it. Maybe allowing you to add like a little markdown section at the top of the folder if you have to want to add any context in there or something like that. Oh, hi, circle. Um, and then I started thinking too about this idea we chatted a bit about, Luke, was sort of the pages, like content that we could put in. I think we called them maybe pages or collections or some way to like organize stuff. And I have some, like something that we could sit probably inside this content system. But when you go to it, it could be like basically throwing out some ideas here. Like lists of things. You can create like lists of content. It would be like static or dynamic, like dynamic being like a search, like follow these search parameters, or something that's static's like pick these 5 things. If you have markdown, you could make little things in there that are like, hey, these are the people, or maybe the nod to like, could I embed a viz that just links over to the dashboard? That's interesting there. Some thoughts that definitely like this is just like to provoke thought more than anything, but we could certainly do stuff that's like smarter lists. Like if we have lists that then you want to make lists of things and then like maybe pin them over here to the side. So having this idea of like pinning stuff to the side, be it folders, dashboards, maybe these pages or collections concepts. So and then you can go in. Let me have a couple and like maybe like this is an idea maybe for like defining some searches, right? Like, hey, like I want to search and I want to search only in this folder and I want to have these labels, et cetera, to have like a dynamic list that you could create on one of these pages and then pin to the side or something like that. So these are just a few of the ideas that I started playing around with for pages and folders. And then if we do stuff like this where we can do things like making like the lists and the content, we could probably do the same thing to the homepage, right? The homepage is just another page. And so you could do something maybe where people then can start to like customize their home pages where they can like pin like what is like the most important tools that they want, maybe like customize lists that are like personal to the specific user, like their recent activity. We already in our markdown can do things like embed videos and stuff like that. So like there's an opportunity there, I think, for this like concept to maybe allow for more customization.
This is sort of like we had this discussion at Looker a few times, but is there a thought that we should create essentially almost like component objects for things that exist in our system, and these things are almost all dashboards essentially? Like these little objects at the top here are essentially cards, and
Yeah,
this
I
is like a
mean,
list card, and then effectively we're letting people build dashboards and potentially embed dashboard objects or something like that.
I
Like, what's
think
your
it's
thought?
worth discussing and thinking about how we want some of this stuff to behave. I mean, like you could make this thing and then embed this, like make a page that has like
Yeah.
data and these other things and embed it somewhere else.
Yeah, I just think
Mm.
this is how someone would want to build an embedded app also, is effectively they're building things that look like this that are the navigation. Like almost everything that you're talking about here is essentially an embedded app for ourselves
Yep.
of just the content that we have. And
I
so I
mean,
think thinking about how we can make these things, I don't know, like an actual flexible system that people can do stuff with
yeah. I
might.
mean, think about with like our admin pages, like system activity and things like that, where you want to have like navigation pieces and data pieces.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I think it's worth talking more about and figuring out like really what they would end up being. And is it just one thing? You just make pages and sometimes they have all data on them and sometimes they have other widgets and whatnot. So, but just want to throw out some ideas so we can start thinking a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
folders, obviously, we start fairly simple, but I think the idea of having kind of more flexible content, even within these like, so it's not just workbooks and dashboards, will be interesting to go into.
Yep. We should also think about the idea of like personal areas and the public private sort of mix and
Yeah,
what
I
our
just
point of
put
view
that
is
in as a
there.
nod because I think that like people want to make stuff and then you need a place to put the stuff, but you don't want to mess up all that shared system.
Yep.
The thing that's nice about that, I think, is pretty solvable. Like, there's like two in the existing scheme for the upcoming scheme. Basically, there is a deferred personal space. If you don't put it in a folder, its folder's already null. It's like, okay, it's in your personal space. Organizing your personal space will become a pain in the butt. I think what you can do is create folders that you don't share, and therefore only you can see them, and then those can live inside your personal space but not be visible to others.
Yep.
And you get a pretty nice flexible system. A big thing in my mind is like separating the role of the role, uh, the use of folders versus, let's call it, pages as curation object and labels. Folders are for permissions, and that's all they're intended to solve for. I think Looker got themselves in trouble. I tried trying to mix folders and curation and different concepts, and I think we want to be really careful of like folders are for permissions, and that is where they end. And if you want to curate, let's build layers on top of that, because then we can do clever things like saying you could have a page that's curated, and depending on the user's rights, it may be a little different for two different users, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and that's
Another thing I would love to think about is sort of favorites and
yeah,
how they exist in the system, because I always feel like there was this divergence between like stuff you made and favorites, and
right,
they like were sort of the same thing and sort of not the same thing, and they never really
100%.
composed together properly. Um, and like I don't know whether they're a special folder or a tag or like, but being able to integrate them better, I think, is something that we could also improve on.